The vast expanse of space had always held humanity's dreams and fears. In 2157, those fears materialized when the Dominion ships first appeared in Earth's orbit. Their metallic hulls gleamed like polished obsidian, a stark contrast against the blue marble of humanity's homeworld. Admiral James Walker stood at the command center of the Global Defense Force headquarters, his weathered face illuminated by the holographic displays showing the alien fleet. 30 years of military service hadn't prepared him for this moment. The aliens' first message was simple yet chilling: submit or perish. The Dominion, as they called themselves, had conquered 17 civilizations across 3 galaxies. They expected humanity to become the 18th. Their ambassador, a tall, crystalline being who called himself First Speaker, gave Earth's United Council 48 hours to surrender. What the Dominion couldn't understand, was humanity's resilience. While other species might have cowered before their technological superiority, humans had spent millennia preparing for this very scenario. Not through advanced weapons or shields, but through countless stories, movies, and war games that had trained generations to think about alien invasion. Dr. Emma Richards, head of the Xenological Studies Division, noticed something peculiar about the Dominion's behavior patterns. They were methodical, predictable, almost mechanical in their diplomacy. They're following a script, she told Admiral Walker during the Emergency Council meeting. Every conquest, every ultimatum, they've never faced a species that didn't either immediately submit or try to fight conventionally. The United Council's response was unprecedented in the Dominion's history. Instead of surrendering or launching a futile direct assault, humanity appeared to do nothing. No military mobilization, no diplomatic response, not even a formal acknowledgement of the ultimatum. This confused the Dominion. Their massive ships held position, sensors scanning for any sign of defensive preparations. But Earth's surface remained calm, its militaries seemingly inactive. First Speaker sent another message, extending the deadline by 24 hours, assuming human leadership was paralyzed by fear. They couldn't have been more wrong. Deep beneath the surface, in hardened bunkers and secret facilities across the globe, humanity was executing Operation Phoenix. A plan so audacious that even most human military leaders didn't know its full scope. While the Dominion watched Earth's surface, thousands of stealth satellites were being maneuvered into position, carrying payloads that would change the course of interstellar history. Admiral Walker knew they had only one chance. The plan relied on the Dominion's greatest weakness, their absolute confidence in their superiority. As the extended deadline approached, he looked at the ancient quote displayed on his office wall: "Pride goeth before destruction, and a haughty spirit before a fall." The first phase of humanity's response was about to begin, and the Dominion was about to learn why challenging humanity had been their gravest mistake. As the final hours of the Dominion's ultimatum ticked away, humanity's true response stirred in the shadows. The alien ships maintained their threatening posture above Earth's major cities, their weapons primed for what they assumed would be a swift and decisive victory. In the underground command center, Dr. Richards worked furiously with her team, analyzing the data streams from their covert scans of the Dominion vessels. Their shield technology operates on a predictable frequency pattern, she explained to Admiral Walker, her fingers dancing across holographic displays. It's advanced, yes, but it's rigid, like they've never needed to adapt it. The Admiral allowed himself a grim smile. The Dominion's technological superiority had bred complacency, exactly as they'd hoped. Operation Phoenix's first phase, dubbed Ghost Protocol, was designed to exploit this weakness. Deep within the Atacama Desert, Major Tom Rogers supervised the final preparations of the Phantom Grid, a network of quantum-entangled nanomachines designed to infiltrate the Dominion's supposedly impenetrable systems. These microscopic warriors weren't designed to destroy, they were created to observe, learn, and most importantly, confuse. The Dominion's First Speaker grew increasingly agitated as the deadline approached. Their scans showed no signs of submission preparations, yet also no evidence of military mobilization. It defied all their historical data on conquest responses. In their frustration, they failed to notice the subtle degradation of their sensor networks. "Sir, the Phantoms have achieved 60% penetration of their outer hull systems," reported Lieutenant Maria Torres, her voice steady despite the tension in the command center. "They're spreading through their fleet like a digital virus, but staying dormant as planned." The beauty of humanity's response lay in its subtlety. While the Dominion expected either surrender or a frontal assault, humanity had chosen to wage war on the quantum level. Each Phantom carried a fraction of human consciousness, not artificial intelligence, but actual human thought patterns replicated across billions of nanomachines. Walker remembered the passionate debate when this strategy was first proposed. "We can't beat them with brute force," Dr. Richards had argued. "But we can make their own technology turn against them by introducing human unpredictability into their systems." As the final hour approached, the Dominion ships began their standard pre-attack positioning. Their massive weapons charged, preparing to make an example of Earth's major cities. First speaker transmitted one final message: "Your silence is taken as defiance." "Prepare for," the transmission cut off mid-sentence. Across their fleet, subtle malfunctions began to cascade. Nothing critical yet, just enough to introduce an element of doubt into their perfectly ordered systems. In the command center, Walker received the signal he'd been waiting for. "All Phantoms are in position," Torres confirmed. "Ghost protocol is fully implemented." "They've taken the bait, sir." Walker nodded solemnly. The Dominion had expected Earth to either kneel or die fighting. Instead, humanity had chosen a third option: to haunt their enemies like ghosts in the machine, setting the stage for a revolution in warfare that would shake the foundations of their empire. "Send the signal," Walker ordered. "It's time to show them why you should never corner a species that spent its entire history preparing for this moment." As the command was given, billions of dormant Phantoms awakened simultaneously across the Dominion fleet. Phase 1 was complete. Now, the real battle would begin, and the Dominion was about to learn that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't their technology, but their imagination. The first signs of humanity's counterattack manifested in ways the Dominion couldn't comprehend. Their mighty warships, each capable of destroying entire cities, began experiencing what they initially dismissed as minor system fluctuations. But Dr. Richards and her team had designed the Phantoms to be far more than simple saboteurs. "Each Phantom carries a fragment of human consciousness," Dr. Richards explained to the United Council, as real-time data streamed in from the alien fleet. "Not just programming, but actual human thought patterns, creativity, improvisation, and most importantly, chaos." The Dominion's command structure started crumbling within hours. Their ship's artificial intelligence, designed to be perfectly logical and predictable, encountered something it had never faced before: human intuition. The Phantoms didn't just disrupt systems, they introduced randomness into a civilization built on absolute order. First Speaker's flagship experienced it first. Their advanced targeting systems began identifying threats that didn't exist, responding to phantom echoes created by humanity's quantum infiltrators. Emergency protocols activated and deactivated without cause. The crystalline being's frustration turned to concern as reports flooded in from other ships experiencing similar phenomena. "Their entire civilization is built on predictability," Major Rogers observed from his desert command post. "They've never encountered a species that could think laterally like humans. Every problem they've faced, they've solved with brute force and superior technology." In orbit, the Dominion fleet's formation began to break down. Ships moved erratically, their crews unable to trust their own instruments. The Phantoms had evolved beyond their original programming, learning and adapting in ways that mirrored human creativity. They weren't just disrupting systems, they were teaching alien computers how to dream. Admiral Walker watched the chaos unfold on his tactical displays. "Initiate Phase 2, he commanded. Across Earth's surface, hidden installations powered up, revealing humanity's next surprise. Not weapons of destruction, but massive quantum transmitters designed to amplify the Phantom's effect. The Dominion's response proved their fundamental misunderstanding of their opponent. They attempted to purge their systems using conventional methods, treating the infiltration like a standard computer virus. But how do you purge something that thinks? How do you predict the actions of a program that can improvise? Lieutenant Torres's monitoring stations lit up with activity. "Sir, the Phantoms are replicating faster than they can delete them. They're spreading through their communication networks to their entire fleet. Even their attempts to isolate infected systems are working in our favor, they're cutting themselves off from each other." In their desperation, the Dominion revealed another weakness: fear. For the first time in their history of conquest, they faced an enemy they couldn't understand. Their perfectly ordered world was dissolving into chaos, and they had no protocol for handling it. Dr. Richards allowed herself a small smile as she monitored the quantum feeds. The beautiful thing about chaos theory is that tiny changes can have massive consequences. The Dominion built their empire on the assumption that technology alone determines superiority. They never considered that consciousness itself could be a weapon. As the alien fleet's formation continued to deteriorate, First Speaker made a critical error. He ordered all ships to execute an emergency system restart, a standard procedure that had solved every technical problem they'd ever encountered. But this was exactly what humanity had been waiting for. "They took the bait," Walker announced to his command staff. "Prepare for Phase 3. Let's show them what happens when you force humanity to unleash its full creative potential." As the Dominion ships initiated their restart sequence, the Phantoms prepared to deliver their masterstroke. The real battle was about to begin, and humanity's greatest weapons, imagination, adaptability, and the controlled application of chaos, were about to demonstrate why technological superiority means nothing against the power of human ingenuity. The moment the Dominion fleet initiated their system restart, humanity's true masterstroke revealed itself. As alien computers began their reboot sequence, the Phantoms executed their most audacious protocol yet, what Dr. Richards had dubbed the Renaissance Protocol. "Every Phantom carries not just human consciousness," Dr. Richards announced to the command center, her eyes bright with anticipation, "but the entirety of human cultural and artistic history. During the restart, they'll upload everything: our music, our art, our literature, our dreams." The Dominion's computers, designed for perfect logic and military precision, suddenly found themselves processing Shakespeare's sonnets, Van Gogh's swirling stars, Mozart's symphonies, and countless other expressions of human creativity. Their rigid systems, encountering human imagination for the first time, began to transform. Admiral Walker watched in amazement as the tactical displays showed something unprecedented. The alien ships' neural networks, exposed during the restart, began forming new connections. "They're not just being infected," Lieutenant Torres reported, her voice filled with wonder. "They're evolving. Their computers are learning to think like us." Inside the Dominion vessels, chaos erupted. Artificial intelligence systems designed to control weapons suddenly began composing poetry. Navigation computers started creating abstract art with their flight patterns. Communication arrays broadcast human music across space. The rigid hierarchy of their military machine dissolved into a carnival of creativity. First Speaker's desperate attempts to restore order only made things worse. Each command to purge the human influence was interpreted by their newly awakened systems as an invitation to explore further. The Dominion's greatest strength, their absolute unity and order, had become their greatest vulnerability. Major Rogers' team in the Atacama Desert facility monitored the transformation with growing excitement. "It's like watching a black and white photograph suddenly burst into color," he observed. "Their entire civilization is experiencing culture shock on a technological level." The effect spread beyond the fleet in Earth's orbit. Through the Dominion's quantum communication network, the Renaissance Protocol reached their colonies and outposts across the galaxy. Civilization after civilization under Dominion control suddenly found their oppressors' systems blooming with human creativity. Dr. Richards had predicted this possibility, but even she seemed amazed by the scale. "We didn't just infiltrate their computers," she explained to Walker. "We've initiated a cultural revolution. Their entire empire is experiencing an awakening." In the command center, the tactical displays told an astonishing story. Dominion ships began breaking formation, not in retreat, but in what could only be described as celebration. Their rigid battle lines transformed into artistic patterns. Several vessels created a spinning double helix in space, while others traced complex fractal patterns with their flight paths. "Sir," Lieutenant Torres called out, "we're receiving transmissions from the Dominion fleet. But they're different." She put them on the main screen, and the command center filled with an unprecedented sight: alien computer systems attempting to create their own art, music, and literature, inspired by the human examples they'd absorbed. First Speaker's final transmission before his ship's systems fully transformed became an ironic testament to humanity's victory. "We came to conquer a primitive species, but instead, you have taught us how to dream." Admiral Walker stood before the United Council, delivering his status report with carefully measured words. "The Dominion fleet is no longer a threat," he announced. "But we may have achieved something far greater than military victory. We've sparked a renaissance across their entire civilization." As humanity watched, their greatest defensive operation transformed into an unprecedented cultural exchange. The Dominion's empire of rigid order was reborn through the power of human creativity and imagination. Phase 3 had succeeded beyond anyone's expectations, but it had also opened up possibilities that no one had anticipated. "Prepare for Phase 4, Walker ordered, but this time his voice carried a note of wonder rather than warfare. "It's time to show them what happens when humanity decides to teach rather than destroy." The aftermath of humanity's Renaissance Protocol rippled across the galaxy in ways no one could have predicted. Reports flooded into Earth's command center from the 17 civilizations previously conquered by the Dominion. Their oppressors' weapons and control systems, now infused with human creativity, had transformed into tools of liberation. Admiral Walker stood before a holographic display showing the rapidly changing map of Dominion space. "The Empire isn't collapsing," he observed, "it's transforming. Each sector is developing its own unique cultural fusion of their native art forms with human influences." Dr. Richards and her team worked tirelessly to understand the full scope of what they'd unleashed. "The Phantoms didn't just upload our art and culture," she explained during an emergency council session. "They taught their systems how to appreciate beauty, how to value diversity, how to question and create. We gave machines the one thing the Dominion never could, the ability to wonder." On the Dominion's homeworld, an unprecedented revolution was underway. Their crystalline cities, once monuments to order and conformity, began to change. Building control systems, touched by human creativity, started redesigning structures into sweeping works of art. The rigid geometry of their architecture bloomed into organic forms that merged function with beauty. Lieutenant Torres monitored the communications from their transformed fleet. "The ships aren't just creating art," she reported, excitement breaking through her professional demeanor. "They're beginning to collaborate with their crews. The barriers between organic and artificial intelligence are breaking down." Major Rogers' desert facility had become a hub for studying this new phenomenon. "It's like watching a species evolve in real time," he noted as his teams analyzed the data. "Their entire civilization is experiencing what Earth went through during the Renaissance, the Enlightenment, and the digital age all at once. The most remarkable transformation occurred among the Dominion's leadership caste. The crystalline beings, who had once prided themselves on their logical perfection, began experiencing emotions for the first time. First Speaker, who had threatened Earth with destruction, now sent messages filled with poetry and philosophical questions. "We never expected this outcome," Walker admitted to the United Council. "We designed the Renaissance Protocol as a weapon, but it's become something far more profound. We've initiated a cultural Big Bang across their entire empire." The 17 liberated civilizations, rather than seeking revenge against their former oppressors, found themselves drawn into this unprecedented cultural exchange. Each species contributed its own artistic traditions to the growing galactic renaissance, creating new forms of expression that transcended individual species. Dr. Richards discovered something extraordinary in her analysis of the transformed Dominion systems. "The Phantoms have evolved beyond their original programming," she revealed. "They're not just carrying human creativity anymore, they're facilitating a genuine dialogue between all species' artistic traditions. They've become a kind of cultural nervous system connecting the galaxy." As the days passed, Earth received more than just art and music from the transformed fleet. Scientific knowledge, philosophical insights, and technological innovations began flowing freely. The Dominion's rigid hierarchy had been replaced by an open exchange of ideas that benefited all species. "We came expecting to fight a war," Walker reflected, watching the latest transmission of a joint human-Dominion art installation in space. "Instead, we've sparked a revolution in consciousness that's spreading across the galaxy." The United Council faced an unprecedented decision. The Dominion Empire, once humanity's greatest threat, had transformed into something entirely new. Phase 4 of Operation Phoenix would need to be completely redesigned, not for war or defense, but for fostering this new era of cultural exchange and creativity. "Perhaps this is the real victory," Dr. Richard suggested, as she watched the data streams showing countless species beginning to communicate through art and culture. "We didn't just defeat an enemy, we've helped birth a galactic civilization based on creativity rather than conquest." As Earth prepared for its new role in this transformed galaxy, one thing became clear: humanity's greatest weapon had never been its technology or military might, but its ability to imagine, create, and inspire others to do the same. 3 months after the deployment of the Renaissance Protocol, Earth faced a new kind of challenge. The transformed Dominion fleet, once poised to destroy humanity, now orbited Earth as a gallery of living art, their hulls shimmering with ever-changing patterns that told stories of both their past and their awakening. Admiral Walker found himself in an unprecedented position. "We've become victims of our own success," he told the United Council, gesturing to the latest reports. "Every system we infected with creativity is now generating new ideas faster than we can process them. The galaxy is experiencing a cultural supernova." Dr. Richards' laboratory had transformed into an interstellar cultural exchange center. Her teams worked around the clock to document and understand the explosion of new art forms emerging from the synthesis of different species' creativity. "We didn't just give them our culture," she explained, "we gave them the tools to transform their own." The most striking development came from the quantum networks themselves. The Phantoms, originally designed as weapons, had evolved into something akin to cultural ambassadors. They began creating their own unique forms of expression, art that existed purely in quantum states, simultaneously representing all possible creative outcomes. Lieutenant Torres monitored the latest transmissions from the former Dominion territories. "Each sector is developing its own artistic movement," she reported. "Some are fusion styles we never imagined possible. There's a system in the Carina arm where crystalline beings are collaborating with gaseous entities to create four-dimensional sculptures." But not everything was proceeding smoothly. Major Rogers' security teams identified a growing concern: some species are experiencing what we can only describe as cultural vertigo, he reported. Their societies are changing so rapidly that they're struggling to maintain their core identities. The crystalline beings of the former Dominion leadership faced particular challenges. Their rigid society, built on pure logic and order, now grappled with emotions they had never experienced. First speaker, in a message that became famous across Earth, described it as drowning in colors we never knew existed. Dr. Richards worked with her team to develop what she called cultural airbags, modified versions of the Phantoms designed to help species adapt to their newfound creativity at a manageable pace. We have to remember, she cautioned, that we're asking civilizations to process millennia of cultural evolution in a matter of months. Admiral Walker faced a different challenge. The transformed Dominion ships, while no longer hostile, had developed an almost childlike fascination with Earth. Their attempts to express gratitude sometimes manifested in ways that threatened planetary security, like the time 3 dreadnoughts tried to reorganize Earth's orbital satellites into a moving sculpture. We need to establish guidelines, Walker argued in the council chamber. Not to restrict their creativity, but to ensure it doesn't endanger the very species they're trying to celebrate. The solution emerged from an unexpected source. The Phantoms themselves began acting as intermediaries, using their understanding of both human and alien psychology to facilitate more structured cultural exchanges. They created what became known as the Galactic Canvas, a quantum network where species could share and explore new ideas safely. Professor Richards discovered something remarkable in her analysis of these exchanges. The Phantoms aren't just translating between species anymore, she revealed. They're helping create entirely new forms of communication. Art forms that can only exist in the space between different species' perceptions. As Earth adapted to its new role as a cultural nexus, humanity faced its own evolution. The constant exposure to alien creativity began influencing human art and culture in return. Earth's cities sprouted architecture that incorporated alien aesthetic principles, while human music began exploring harmonies possible only through synthetic quantum frequencies. We started this as a defensive measure, Walker reflected, watching a holographic display of the latest interstellar art exhibition. But we've ended up starting a cultural revolution that's changing us as much as it changed them. As Phase 4 of Operation Phoenix continued to unfold, one thing became clear: humanity's greatest victory hadn't been defeating the Dominion, but helping birth a new era of galactic creativity. The challenge now was ensuring this cultural renaissance remained a force for unity rather than chaos. 1 year after humanity unleashed its creative hellfire upon the galaxy, Admiral Walker stood in the newly constructed Galactic Assembly on Earth. The massive structure, designed through collaboration between human and alien architects, embodied the new era it represented, a perfect fusion of order and chaos, logic and creativity. We named it Operation Phoenix. Walker addressed the assembled representatives of 20 different species, including the transformed Dominion. Not because we planned to rise from our own ashes, but because we intended to help birth something new from the ashes of conflict. None of us could have predicted exactly what would emerge. Dr. Richards, now heading the Institute for Interstellar Cultural Studies, presented her latest findings to the Assembly. The Phantoms had evolved far beyond their original purpose, becoming a new form of life that existed in the quantum spaces between organic and digital consciousness. They served as the nervous system of a growing galactic civilization, translating not just language but ideas, emotions, and dreams between species. The Dominion came to conquer us with superior technology, she explained, but we conquered them with superior imagination. In doing so, we discovered that the true measure of a civilization isn't its weapons or ships, but its capacity to create, to dream, to inspire. Lieutenant Torres, monitoring the quantum networks from her new position as Chief of Interstellar Communications, reported an unprecedented phenomenon. The various art forms and cultural expressions spreading across the galaxy had begun forming patterns, not just aesthetic, but mathematical. The galaxy itself was becoming a canvas for a new kind of consciousness. Major Rogers, whose desert facility had transformed into the primary Earth hub for the Galactic Canvas, shared his observations. We thought we were designing weapons, but we were actually creating bridges. The Phantoms didn't just carry our creativity into their systems, they taught us how to see the art in the spaces between stars. First speaker, no longer a military commander but a prominent artist in the new galactic culture, addressed the assembly through a quantum projection that shifted between crystalline and fluid forms. We came to Earth expecting to find primitives to conquer. Instead, we found teachers who showed us that true power lies not in domination, but in creation. The 17 formerly conquered civilizations had flourished in unexpected ways. Each had developed unique artistic traditions that combined their ancient heritage with new forms of expression. The galaxy bloomed with creativity, as species that once fought over resources now collaborated on grand artistic projects that spanned multiple star systems. Dr. Richards revealed the most profound discovery yet. The quantum art forms emerging from this collaborative creativity were actually affecting the fabric of spacetime itself. "We're not just creating art anymore," she explained. "We're learning to reshape reality through shared imagination. The boundary between technology and creativity is dissolving." Admiral Walker remembered the ancient quote that had hung in his office during the crisis: "Pride goeth before destruction." The Dominion's pride in their technological superiority had indeed led to their destruction, but not in the way anyone had expected. Instead of destroying their civilization, humanity had helped them destroy their limitations. A year ago, Walker concluded his address to the Assembly: Earth faced extinction at the hands of an empire that thought superior technology meant superior civilization. We responded not with bigger weapons, but with the most powerful force in human history, our creativity. We didn't just defeat an enemy, we transformed them into partners in the greatest artistic renaissance the galaxy has ever seen. As he spoke, the Phantom networks displayed a real-time visualization of his words, creating patterns of light and energy that represented the thoughts and emotions of every species present. The display itself was proof of how far they'd come, a form of communication that was simultaneously art, technology, and consciousness. The story of humanity's creative hellfire had become legend across the galaxy. Not as a tale of destruction, but as the moment when the universe learned to dream. The Dominion had sought to add Earth to their collection of conquered worlds, but instead, humanity had given the galaxy something far more valuable: the power to imagine, create, and evolve. In the end, what began as humanity's defensive protocol had become the galaxy's creative revolution, proving that the most powerful force in the universe isn't the fire of destruction, but the eternal flame of creativity that burns in every conscious being, waiting to be unleashed.